Heyo, welcome back to the Undrafted and Unqualified Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Anthony, just me again for today. We got another exciting episode. We're going to be going over some more position. We're going to be doing the tight ends today. Before we get to that, we do have a little bit of news, which will be good to talk about, as we didn't have any news in the last episode. So I got a little bit for you today, and then we'll hop right in to the tight end position. This is the first week, though, without some football on Sunday, and it's kind of a bummer, honestly. I know the Olympics are going on, so you got that to watch at least, but no football. Definitely missing it a little bit, but like I said earlier this offseason, we're going to keep going with some podcasts regardless of what's going on. We're going to continue to pump out content for you guys, so we'll be looking forward to that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So just two pieces of news today. The first one, with another coordinator change, Brian Fleury, the San Francisco 49ers tight end coach, is going to the Seahawks to be their offensive coordinator. So the guy who's been working with Kittle and Jake Tonjes, who even was very successful when Kittle went down, he's going to be the offensive coordinator out in Seattle. What does this mean? I think it's not a bad hire. I mean, it's another coordinator change. But we saw the tight ends be very successful in San Francisco. I'm expecting maybe Barner gets a little bit more success from here. AJ Barner, the Seattle Seahawks tight end. They have Elijah Arroyo, a rookie they drafted this past year who didn't really get a ton of playing time, so maybe he turns into something. Could be a nice late round dart throw. Regardless, I think it's a good hire, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I think JSN should still be a stud, and we'll see what they do with Ken Walker, if they bring him back or not. But overall, solid hire. And the other piece of news, Tyreek Hill has been released from the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, this was expected, honestly. We were kind of expecting him to either be traded, released, something like that. It ended up being a release rather than a trade. A reunion with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City is a possibility. Him going somewhere else entirely is also a possibility. We have to see how he does coming back from the injury, right? So he's got some rehabbing to do, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes and if he returns to any sort of form. So we will see. I know 2 years ago it was like consensus number one overall pick, and he was a flat out bust. And then this past year he was going a lot later. Some people took him. He was all right, nothing special, and then the injury. So I think this is great news for Jalen Waddle. Depending on who the QB is, this is great news for Jalen Waddle. He could be going to the moon because he's going to be the only target there in Miami. But as for Tyreek Hill, remains to be seen what we're going to do with him. But yeah, that's it for the news. So we're going to continue on. As I said, we got the tight end position today. We'll go over the top 10, maybe a couple extra names, and we'll go from there. So starting off, the overall tight end one of the season, Trey McBride, with more than 100 points more than the tight end two on the season. I mean, Trey McBride was getting targets and receptions in like the top 10 in the league. That included receivers. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. The tight ends, or the touchdowns rather, we said there's going to be a positive regression. He's going to score more than 2 touchdowns this year, and he did within the first 4 weeks or something like that. So the touchdowns came this year as well. Brissett just threw a ton of volume, so it was great news for Trey McBride owners. He was the best tight end in all of football by far. He could surprise and go borderline round 1 this upcoming year. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody's taking him there. I'd probably lean early round 2 instead, just because we are going to have other guys like Bowers to think about too. So just the value. But McBride was just so good. He was just so much better than everybody else. I think it's very clear that he's going to be an amazing pick next year. And we'll see what they do at quarterback and what kind of the offense seems to be. But Trey McBride seems like the one in this offense. And yeah, I'm very excited for Trey McBride heading forward as well. So if you took him this year instead of Bowers, you were very happy. The tight end 2 on the season. Surprise, surprise, it's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, he did it. I mean, it's when's the breakout going to happen? And truthfully, it wasn't a very good season to start. It was okay numbers, couple bust games, a lot of bust games, week 10 through 12, he didn't top more than 5 points. Week 13, 14, solid. Week 15, 45 points. That was the week he broke out. Best tight end score ever in all of fantasy football history. So when you're getting a number like that, it's going to inflate your score a lot. There were a bunch of very solid weeks though from him. Couple 15s and 18, couple other double digit games. So overall, it wasn't a bad season by any means. Obviously, he finished at the tight end too, but we got to keep in mind that 45 point week 15 rather, it inflated his scores by a lot. So he feels more like a middle, like tight end one, kind of the 5 range rather than 2, but we can't say anything less. I mean, he got the best score in tight end history in fantasy football. So next year it'll be interesting. Does he return to Atlanta? He's a free agent, so does he return to Atlanta? Does he go elsewhere? I've heard rumors of Tennessee, so maybe he ends up there with Brian Daboll. We'll see. I think the Falcons should bring him back. There's no one else there besides Drake London. Like, they do not have anybody to catch passes. So I think he should stay there for the Falcons. They should keep him there, but we'll see. We'll see. That will be important to decide where we draft Kyle Pitts next year. He's still fairly young, and he still has a lot of upside. The case is there for him. Be careful. Be careful about taking him too soon. But I think the public's going to be fine. It's going to be McBride, Bowers, and then probably the 3 rookies in Warren, Loveland, and Fannin in some order. That'll probably be the overall top 5, but we'll see. If Pitts climbs in that top 5, I'd be a little worried. But then again, he could go somewhere and it'll look really great, and we're all over Pitts again. Solid year, to say the least. He finally did it. He finally hit the breakout, which is awesome to see. The tight end 3, Travis Kelce. Only 10 points less than Kyle Pitts. It was all right. It was much better when Mahomes was healthy. Solid weeks throughout. There really were not many busts. So even if it was like a single digit game, you're getting 8 points, 9 points. So it wasn't bad until week 14. He had 1, 14, 1 again, and then 8. So he never boomed, but he was very consistent, which you like that from a tight end. Honestly, it feels like, to me, I would have preferred those numbers from Kelce versus Pitts, just because Pitts had more bust games, like complete bust games, and you're getting some more consistency from Kelce. Kelce's old. We'll see if he returns to play another year. He could retire. There's not much to say going into next year. I mean, he'll be with the Chiefs, I assume, if he comes to return, and that could be great. That could be great for him. Could be great for Mahomes, but I just don't. I think this is it. I think he doesn't reach a top 3 tight end again. And he was getting drafted like tight end 7, tight end 8, somewhere down there. He was not getting drafted this high, and he turned in a good season. But I think this is it for the peak for him. I think it's going to fall off to more that 7, 8 if he returns for another year. But solid season nonetheless, and it can't be overlooked to state that Travis Kelce's still getting it done at this point in his career. Number 4, tight end 4, beating the tight end. Wow, these are close. So the tight end 4, 3 points less than Travis Kelce. The tight end 5 is 0.2 points less than the tight end 4. So we'll start with the 4, obviously, Jake Ferguson. He was out the gate. It was like, this guy's going to have a monster season. 7 points, 16, 21, 17, 23, 12, 21. 0 in week 8, 8 in week 9, hit the bye, and it was just okay after that. Week 14 was his last double-digit game. It was a good season, though, for Jake Ferguson. If George Pickens does not return, I think this guy is going right back to that top 5 status right away. I'd be shocked if it's anything less, because he was doing a lot of the work he was doing was when he was the second target. So I think it's important to note that he can be a number 2 option, very steady option, and a very good option for fantasy football, as long as he's not the number 3. It felt like that offense really established CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson kind of got left in the dust. So I think it's important to keep that in mind based on where Pickens goes. If Pickens stays in Dallas and it's CD, Pickens, and then Jake Ferguson again, I think we're going to be talking about Jake Ferguson probably back end tight end one, 10 to 12 maybe even outside the top 12. I wouldn't even be surprised. But it was a great season for him nonetheless, and it's important to note that he can do this. So we can't completely shove Jake Ferguson under the rug even if Pickens returns, because he showed some serious flashes this year, and we know he can score touchdowns too, especially in a potent offense like Dallas. So that'll be really interesting to see. The tight end five, who was zero point 0.2 points behind him, was Harold Fannin Jr. It started off like, wow, this guy might have already taken over David Njoku. Some mediocre games throughout. There was an occasional, 18 points. Oh, awesome. Week 14, 25 points, then 12, 19, and 11 to round out the season. I think that is more like what we're going to get from Fannin next year. I like Fannin going into next year. We'll see what the quarterback situation is. It could be Shedeur Sanders again. They could go Deshaun Watson, honestly. He's still on that team, and they're paying him money. So we'll see what it ends up being. But David Njoku has come out and said he is going to leave the Cleveland Browns, which means this job is entirely Harold Fannin's. And I think that's huge news for fantasy football. I think he should be a top 5 tight end next year going into the draft. I think he's going to get a lot of volume. Hopefully, it's somebody who has a good connection with him, whether it's Shedeur or somebody else. I think I just want it to be a decent connection and they get him the ball. We saw the targets with him and Shedeur at the end of the season through the roof. If that's what we can get next year, he's going to be a great top 5 option at the tight end position. But yeah, there's your top 5 guys. Number 6, which only a point less than Harold Fannin, is Dallas Goedert. So a lot of very close right here. From Dallas Goedert to Travis Kelce, the 3 to the 6. 4 guys in that span within 4 total fantasy points. So a lot of movement there. We could very easily be saying Goedert was the number 3, Kelce was the number 6, right? It didn't finish that way, but very much there's a lot of change that could have happened within this range here. Dallas Goedert finished at tight end 6 with a career high in touchdowns. He hit double digits, I believe, or he was very close to, if not. He started off the season super hot, a lot of double-digit games. Looked good. He missed a week. So he did this in 15 games. He had 1 game less. So he actually averaged more points a game than Kelce, Ferguson, and Fannin. And he had some bust games in the middle of the season, but depending what the offense looks like next year, it feels like Goedert could be okay. I'm not going to be going out and targeting him like crazy. We'll see if A.J. Brown sticks around. If not, that's certainly an upgrade for Dallas Goedert, and he'll be a good option, especially in the red zone. They clearly used him here, so Goedert won't be a bad option next year. It'll be interesting to see where the public views him. I'm probably, just if I were to take a shot, 10 to 12 range. That would be my guess. So I think he's going to fit into a tier probably with Jake Ferguson, and that would make a lot of sense to me. It was a great year, though, for Dallas Goedert, and he averaged quite a bit of fantasy points. I'll do the averages at the end, but I think he was top 5. I think he was number 5 in points a game, something like that. Maybe number 6, but he finished the season with only 1 missed game, got a lot of touchdowns. If you had Dallas Goedert, you were likely pretty happy for the majority of the season. So, good year for Goedert. We'll see. I'd expect some touchdown regression next year, but I think he could still be a solid option depending how the team shakes out. If A.J. Brown is there or not. If A.J. Brown's there, I'll like him a little bit less. Number 7, Tyler Warren, the rookie. He finished, or he started off the year really hot. A lot of double-digit games from weeks 1 through week 6. He only had 1 game in the single digits, and he was looking like a monster. He had a great year, and then the Daniel Jones injury really hurt this offense as a whole. I mean, the end of his year was not very good at all, and it was like, okay, he may be hurting your team more than helping it at this point. I think if Daniel Jones is back, I'm going to really like Warren again next year. I think he's going to be within that 3 to 5 range with the rookies, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin. I think they should be right behind McBride and Bowers. I think it's hard to kind of justify going away from them for somebody else like a Travis Kelce who's getting older. So it was a great year for Warren. I think you can really see how it was so much better with Daniel Jones versus without. And I think that goes for most of the Colts offense, honestly. Um, that included Jonathan Taylor, included Michael Pittman. So it's just something to keep in mind. I think people are going to be scared off of Warren a little bit just because of the end of the year. So keep in mind for sure that Daniel Jones, if he's back, this is good news for Tyler Warren. So I think keep an eye on your league. If people are scared off of Tyler Warren, it could be great to get him at a discount right there. Number, what are we at? 8. Number 8, Brock Bowers. He only played 12 games. It was a rough start. The injury was there. He came back 43 points and then 3. 14, 11, 22, 14, 8, and 14 to end the season. He didn't play week 17. They shut him down for the year. But this was a good year. He was only 4 points behind Tyler Warren and actually only 13 points behind Travis Kelce. So even with the missed time in only 12 games, he still finished very well on the season. He still finished at the tight end 8, which was only 13 points total points behind Travis Kelce, which for Bowers, that's one more game. If he played one more game, we could be talking about him as the tight end 3 this season. And that's with only 13 games. So I think Bowers, rock solid. It's likely Fernando Mendoza is going to be the quarterback there, and he was doing all this with Geno Smith. So I think it's going to be a huge upgrade for the offense to get Mendoza in there. I think McBride should go 1 very clearly, but I think Bowers should be a very clear 2, and that's kind of your top 2 tier for next year. I know we lumped Kittle in this past year. It was Bowers 1, McBride 2, Kittle 3. That was kind of your top 3 elite. And I think this year it's McBride 1, Bowers 2. Those should be your top 2, hands down. Honestly, this was a lot better year than I remember it being for Bowers. It just felt like such a down year, but he was very good still, even with the injuries and the quarterback play. So honestly, it's kind of surprising to me to look at these numbers right now and see how successful of a season it still was. Tight end 9, 4 points less than Bowers, Juwan Johnson. So the tight ends, there's a lot of close ranges here. Like Juwan Johnson was 17 points behind Travis Kelce. That's it. And that is from tight end 3 to tight end 9. 17-point difference between the tight end 3 to the tight end 9. That is not a lot of points. So tight ends can go a lot of different ways, as we're seeing through some of these numbers. Like Bowers, very much to me, had a more successful season than the guys who finished above him. Very much feels like an elite option. Some other guys, Harold Fannon's end of the year, very elite. Tyler Warren, his start, with Daniel Jones, very elite to me. So keeping an eye on some of these numbers and the disparities of what happened and why their numbers fell off, or why did they not have such a good season, keeping in mind games missed, things like that as well. So Juwan Johnson, it was a solid start, 15, 15, 11. It's like, oh, here's the breakout. Couple single-digit games, then some very low double-digit games. Towards the end of the season, he was getting enough, 10, following the Week 11 bye, 10, 8, 7, 7, 16, and 13. So it was solid. You weren't losing because of Juwan Johnson, so I think that was the plus from Juwan Johnson. I know I had him on my championship roster just because I had lost Tucker Kraft earlier in the year, and I was floating between a bunch of tight ends, and I ended up with Juwan Johnson, and it worked out decently enough for me. I think he's going to be a solid number 2 option for the Saints, depending on what they bring in. Chris Olave is very clearly the one. Tyler Shough looked good, though. He can support 2 options. He could support Chris Olave to elite status, and he very much supported Juwan Johnson when he was the number 2 option. So we need to make sure, though, he is the number 2 option, because when he was not, he was getting those single-digit games more often than not. So if he's the number 2 option, he could be a very rock-solid, like top 10 tight end again next year. We just need to be very aware of who else comes into that receiving room. I think personally, just off rip, it feels like he might be in the tier with Jake Ferguson and Dallas Goedert, probably between the 10 to 12 range. That feels like a pretty solid tier where it's like they can produce, but things have to go right. They also are not sexy picks. So they could be very solid, but not sexy at all. I think that feels pretty fair to say, just off rip, what it could be for them next year. So we'll see. But solid year for Juwan Johnson nonetheless. And number 10, we have Hunter Henry, who 4 points less than Juwan Johnson. Um, if he scored a touchdown, you were happy. It was a solid start to the year. 10 points, 1 point, gross, 29, 11. Bunch of single digits in the middle of the season. We hit week 12, he dropped 24, then 11, hit the bye week. Stinker with 2 points, 15 and 13. So it was a solid end to the season. It was very much, though, is he going to score a touchdown? And if he's not, you're probably getting a true bust of a week from your tight end's position, whether that's that 2 points, that 1 point. So Hunter Henry can pop off at any time, but he feels outside the top 12 for me next year. It just, there's too much risk to bake in. And then there's going to be some other names I'm going to mention here in a couple minutes of guys who are important to note heading into next year that will probably make that jump into the top 12. So Hunter Henry feels like he should be outside of it. We'll see if Stephon Diggs returns to New England, if they bring in other receivers. We have to see what will happen, but they like him there. He can score touchdowns. He can pop off at any time. He can be the guy to get 10 for 120 on any given week. But the way New England runs their offense, it's just unlikely for it to happen consistently, and the fall off of that is you could get a true bust of a week with very, very few points where it really hurts you. So Hunter Henry is polarizing. If it's a good matchup, he's not a bad option in my opinion, but he's not a guy where you're super excited to draft. It's just understanding that he can pop off. So there's your top 10. Dalton Schultz finished right behind him. He looked good when he was the number 2 option. Very good. Looked good with Davis Mills, too. Davis Mills made Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz look great. George Kittle finished right behind him with only 10 games played. Yeah, he missed a stretch in the beginning, in the middle of the season, beginning to middle, and then he popped off towards the end, and it was great. It was great if you're a Kittle owner. Kittle did get hurt, though. It was, I believe, the ACL. So with that in mind, when does he come back? When's he ready? He tore it in the playoffs, the NFL playoffs. So he probably won't be ready for week 1. He's getting older. He's going to be a very, very interesting conversation next year. I think he's going to be the most interesting tight end to talk about next year for where to draft him, because we know how elite he can be, but his age, coming off a major injury, what do you do with him? It's going to be an interesting question. As of right now, I probably just leave him off my board entirely until we hear more updates. It's still very early, so at some point he will jump into my board and I'll find a place to put him. But for now, you got to imagine, just a late round dart throw and then take another tight end with him. You have to. You need to understand that you will be using an extra roster spot on a second tight end if you take George Kittle next year. And I don't think that's going to change, even if he starts ramping up and they're like, oh, he's ready for week 1. I mean, it's just hard to trust that San Francisco team when it comes to injuries with, Christian McCaffrey last year. So I think just to play it safe, if you do want George Kittle, you have to get another tight end on your roster next year. But that'll be a very fun conversation. Another name to mention, Colston Loveland. He started off extremely slow, very, very slow, and then 29 points in week 9. And towards the end of the year, he had some solid weeks. He had 21 in week 17 in the championship. So if you had Loveland, you likely won the championship there because of that week. I think Loveland, a lot of people are really into. They're hyping him up. Oh, there's a lot of numbers there to support it too, and I get it. I just think we're going a little high on Loveland. I've seen him being ranked as high as the tight end 3 behind McBride and Bowers. It's a little high for me. I'd probably go Warren. I'd probably go Fannin ahead of him. I may consider, I'd probably put Loveland at 5, but I think it's just a little rich for me. I know we saw glimpses of it, but I don't think we saw enough for me in particular to really like that. We'll see, though. Maybe DJ Moore gets shipped out. Maybe they really go heavy with Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, and then Rome Odunze is obviously there too. But we'll see. This will be an interesting talk because I don't know what to do with Loveland right now. 3 just feels a little rich for me heading into next year, but an important name nonetheless. Tucker Kraft. He's another name. He only played 8 games, but he was elite during those games. I mean, a 24 piece, a 10 piece, 12, 16, 33. So there were some weeks where he really popped off and he won you your week, and he's electric. He could be the number one option in Green Bay. So we talked about that a little bit. I know Vinny really liked him in the offseason, and I was kind of against that. And then I grew to liking him a little more, took him in a league. He was great for the time being. But I think it's just something to keep in mind that we need to see how he does recovery wise, and then what the team does at receiver, what they do in that room. It feels like Tucker Kraft though should be a top 6 tight end when we're talking drafts next year. Maybe you have the McBride, Bowers, the 3 rookies from this past year, and then Tucker Kraft. I'm not opposed to that. So we'll see what we end up doing, but I think Tucker Kraft's going to be very good again next year. Let's hope he just recovers fully, looks good. Laporta is another name where he played only 9 games. He was okay. He had some very good weeks, some okay weeks. Overall, it was solid. It was a solid season. If I'm pulling up averages here, Laporta finished averaging, he was the tight end 7 on average. Kittle was number 2, Bowers 3, Kraft 4, Pitts, Goddard, then Laporta. So you're seeing a lot of these numbers, a lot of these guys where they ended up in terms of average versus where they finished. Injuries really screwed a lot of them. So Laporta's a name to keep in mind for next year. Kraft is a name to keep in mind. Bowers, obviously. And then Kittle, he needs to be on the radar regardless of when he's going to be healthy. He needs to be on the radar somewhere. We just have to see. That's going to be the hardest one to judge. But I think Laporta, I mean, Drew Petzing loves Laporta. He loves the tight ends. We saw him love it with McBride in Arizona. I think McBride's different. I think McBride is just unbelievable. But I think Laporta has some sneaky upside too. I think he shouldn't fall out of that, 7-8 range. If after the guys I just mentioned being the top 6, I think he should be right there. So it feels like there could be some very, very good options this upcoming year to go as deep as, maybe the tight end 8, where you're getting some really solid options. There were some injuries this year which kind of crushed some guys, but yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the top 10 in terms of average, we had McBride, elite. Kittle, he was elite when he played. Bowers was great when he played with, I didn't even notice really. Kraft was great when he played. Pitts, he was okay. It was a good year for him though. Goddard, solid year. Laporta, it felt solid for when he played. Kelsey, Ferguson, and Fannin. And that's your top 10 right there, and Warren just outside of it. So as much as we talk about the tight end position being, it's very much a top-heavy class. It's a very shallow position. It's not deep. You want to get one of the better guys. And if you had McBride specifically this year, you were set. You were set. You had a great year. You enjoyed every minute of your tight end. But with some of these names and looking at some of the injuries that happened this past year, it looks like it could be just a little bit deeper than we anticipated. And then when we're looking at the total points, from Kyle Pitts at number 2 to, let's say, Hunter Henry at number 10, there was a 31-point disparity. So McBride, 103 points better than Kyle Pitts. And then from Pitts to Hunter Henry at the tight end 2 to tight end 10, there was a 31-point disparity. So, right, you have McBride, you have that elite status, and then you have a bunch of guys. And I think you could kind of go anywhere, and you just got to figure out which one you're the most comfortable with and which one you want, which one could maybe make the jump too, right? So could it be Loveland? Could it be Tyler Warren? Could it be? So that's why I think the rookies should be getting drafted fairly high. But yeah, it'll be real interesting. There's going to be some other names. Like I think Elijah Arroyo is going to pop into conversations. Depending where Njoku goes, could David Njoku pop into conversations as top 12 guys? So I think Elijah Arroyo, not top 12. Let me get that straight. But I think he's going to be potentially a late round name that pops up. So it's going to be real interesting. Gadsden had his moments this year. Theo Johnson had a couple good weeks. AJ Barner had a few good weeks. Dalton Kincaid, a couple really good weeks as well, like especially early in the season when he was healthy. So it's going to be real interesting to see, what do we do next year? The tight ends are going to be a fun conversation, but that is it for the tight ends. Much quicker one. It's not as fun. It's not as exciting because of how close together some of them are after McBride. But I don't have anything planned for the next episode. I'm still going to try and get a guest on at some point in the coming weeks, but it'll be a surprise for you as much as it is for me for the next episode, and we'll do something else. We'll make sure we're doing some good talking points, and I'll come up with something. But that's going to wrap up the positions, the top 10 at each position. So we went through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, tight ends. So that'll be a wrap for us on that. But yeah, I'll keep this nice and short this week in this episode, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Peace.